So now we need to multiply complex numbers, just like we learned how to add and subtract. We also have to be able to multiply and divide. So here's the rule for multiplying with complex numbers. You're going to multiply complex numbers just like you would any other polynomial. So again, a lot of this is acting just like it would if I was a variable. Like if instead of it being I just had 2x or 4x or any other variable that we wanted to use. If I gave you an expression that looked like our first example here, which is 3 plus 2i and 8 minus 4i, and I asked you to multiply them together, we would use what's commonly referred to as FOIL or double distributing. Right? I would take the 3 and I would make sure I multiplied it by both parts of the second term of the second expression, and I would do the same thing with the 2i. I would make sure 2i gets multiplied by both of these. Okay? So there's going to be one little catch to that, and I have that up here, is that you're going to multiply it just like another polynomial, but at the end you have to simplify using the cycles of I. Again, what that means is that you're going to only end up with 4 possible answers when I is involved and exponents are involved. And that is that you're going to get I if it's I to the first. If it's I to the second, we're going to replace that with -1. I to the thirds will always be replaced with -I. I to the fourth is always going to be replaced with 1. And then remember that this cycle continues. So if I was talking about I to the seventh or something, I would say, well, I to the 8th is right here, so I to the 7th is right here, and I can continue. So if you're unsure about how to do the cycles of I, there's a previous video that will remind you about it, but I'm going to leave this over here as a reference so that we can use it. Okay, so if I do this distributing just as if it was a regular polynomial expression, I'm going to say 3 times 8 is 24. Okay, I'm going to say 3 times -4i is -12i. Okay, and then I'm going to move to the second expression. 2i times 8 is positive 16i. 2i times -4i, be careful, this is the tough one, -8 comes from 2 times -4, I times I is I squared. Okay, so I can simplify the product, okay, a little bit more, and I can say now I'm going to take -12i plus 16i, so it's going to look like 24, okay, plus 4i, which comes from adding together the middle two terms. And then here's the big change. The 8 is going to stick around, but we have this expression here, I squared. Okay? And look over at our reference here. I squared is actually the same thing. It can be more simplified to -1. Because remember, I actually means something. It's not just a letter. It's not a variable or placeholder. It means the square root of -1. And when I square that, I just get a good old -1 in that spot, right? So I squared by our cycle of I is -1. So that means I have to simplify a little bit more. This expression right here is really 24 plus 4i. I'll bring that down. This is really plus 8, right? -8 times -1 is plus 8. And then I can combine again. I have a 24 plus 8. So here's my final answer. I'm going to say, in a plus bi form, I'm going to say 32 plus 4i. So I'm going to say that the product of 3 plus 2i and 8 minus 4i is 32 plus 4i. Okay, so again, it's distribute like you normally would, look for any exponents, because i's will never have exponents. Okay, fix all of those, and then you might have to simplify it some more, because you're going to turn, in this case, what looks like an imaginary number, an I value, into something that's actually a real number that I can add or subtract. Okay, so let's try another one. So 5 minus I, quantity squared. Okay, so again, here's what this means. Let's just come off to the side and write this another way. This means 5 minus I times 5 minus I. Okay, be careful that you don't just apply the squared to these parts. That is not what this squaring means. Squaring means multiplying by itself. After that, it's basically what we just did. So 5 times 5, well, that's 25. Okay, 5 times -5i, well, that's 5 times -I is -5i. I have another one of those. -I times 5 is also -5i. And then -I times -I is positive I squared. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of simplify steps. I'm going to say 25, we're going to leave alone. Okay, -5 minus 5 is -10i. Okay, and then I have a positive I squared, and we said that up here before. I squared is the same as -1, so I'm going to turn this into -1. Okay, 25 minus 1 is 24 minus 10i. So I'm going to say the product of 5i times itself, 24 minus 10i. Alright, so here are 3 problems if you'd like to try, and we can go over these in class if you need to. And there are some examples of multiplying together complex number expressions using I.